Hey everyone, this is Nick, and despite my office looking like an electronics shop with all the devices I own plus all the ones I have to review and then send back, I still found time to scour the internet and find you the best Linux and open source news for this week. In this one, we have some crazy developers who managed to boot a Linux kernel on iPads. We have Ubuntu overzealously killing off apps in the background like it's an old smartphone, and we have System76 planning to open a distribution center in Europe, so we might finally be able to get all their devices there. And of course, we have weekly updates to our desktop environments and their applications. We have the HP Dev 1, which I have in the background there, being available in the US, and we also have the traditional wine release. And we also have this segue to today's sponsor, who's giving you $100 free credit to launch your own Linux or gaming server. It's what I use for my own Nextcloud and OnlyOffice instances, so take a look. Thanks to Linode for sponsoring this video. Linode is the best choice to deploy your own Linux or gaming server. Getting started is extremely easy thanks to their app marketplace. You can just pick from one of the many apps they offer, select a few configuration options, and just one-click deploy that server. It's super simple. It works for a development environment, but also for a Minecraft or Valheim server. Among the most notable apps, Linode has Moodle to create your own learning management system and teach and sell courses in minutes, but they also have stuff like Pi-hole to block ads. But please don't block mine because I need money to buy more games for the Steam Deck. From Focalboard, a Trello alternative to Rocket Chat, which is the equivalent to Slack or Teams, Linode has everything you would want. Click the link in the description to get your $100 credits and get started. GNOME developers published another update about what they've been working on. WebKit GTK is now up to date with security issues. Its multimedia backend has also been improved, display capture using Pipewire is fixed, and video streaming should also work better. GNOME software now has support for listing other apps by the same developer inside of app pages. Calls, the phone dialer, can now do voice over IP calls. Gafor, the modeling tool, has better activity diagrams, and you can now drag and drop elements from the tree view to a diagram itself. Flatseal now can handle global overrides that apply to all your Flatpak apps. It highlights the changes you've made, and it supports system-level color styles. Emberall, the new music player, also received plenty of UI fixes, and colors and spacing have been improved. They also mentioned the efforts to bring GNOME Shell to phones and tablets, although nothing new has been published yet on that front. But I'm kinda excited about the changes to WebKit GTK. Maybe it's gonna make Epiphany a lot better. I have to give it another shot. KDE developers were also hard at work on their own stuff, and while they focus on fixing the remaining issues before Plasma 5.25 releases next week, they still got some new stuff done. There's one new 15-minute bug logged, so the number is now 65 issues to fix. Dolphin gains the ability to remove individual items from the recent files and recent locations lists and in the file dialogues, so you can make sure nothing embarrassing shows up here. You can preview wallpapers by just clicking on them instead of having to hit apply, although you will still need to apply the change to make it permanent. And File Open and Save dialogues now lets you sort hidden files last. Elisa can now sort your music tracks by date modified, and it now handles touchscreens better. There were also a ton of bug fixes this week, and shortcuts have been tweaked to use the meta key, or the super key, to be more consistent. Most of these changes should land in Plasma 5.26, so in 4 months from there, or in August in the KDE Gear software compilation. Linux will soon run on as many types of devices as the good old Doom, as some developers managed to run it on iPads based on the A8 and A7 chips. These devices, while not that old since they date from 2013 and 2014, are out of updates from Apple, which makes this all the better. They managed to run a Linux kernel version 5.18 on an iPad Air 2 using post-market OS. It looks like they needed to use a boot ROM exploit to get it onto the hardware, and it can't mount a file system just yet. Just like most other basic features like USB, Bluetooth, networking, audio, or graphics. But it's a first step. These devices could absolutely be used as small home servers, and maybe in the future as full graphical tablets running a full desktop environment. And in the future, it might also open the door to running Linux-based operating systems on phones, on iPhones, because they also use the same chips. Imagine running like Phosh or KDE Plasma Mobile or Ubuntu Touch on an iPhone. Would be cool. Ubuntu 22.04 seems to be a problematic release for their users. After the whole app images don't work anymore thing, and a host of kernel vulnerabilities that were not specifically Ubuntu's fault, it now seems that the LTS version kills off applications a bit too eagerly. 22.04 introduced System76 for out-of-memory daemon, a system that kills applications when the kernel reports it's out of memory, something that can happen often if your device doesn't have much RAM. Well, it looks like this system is a bit overzealous and also kills applications when memory isn't necessarily strained. Chrome, as the biggest memory hog ever invented, is often shut down when you're trying to do something else. There are mitigations, like increasing the swap file size or disabling the feature entirely, but it's still something that needs to be fixed quickly by Ubuntu. 22.04 is an LTS, it's supposed to be very stable, so these kind of issues just shouldn't happen on it. I think their testing process needs a little bit more work. And also it's going to add more water to the mill of people that didn't like Systemd before. If you don't like YouTube and you're looking for alternatives, you might know about Peertube. While it clearly doesn't have the breadth of content you'd find on Google's platform, and creators won't find the same size of audience, the federated network is still growing and adding more features. Version 4.2 now lets creators edit their videos directly through the web interface. It only lets you do basic edits, but that lets you remove a part of your video you think doesn't work, or move things around without having to re-render the whole video from your editing software and without having to re-upload it. Or you can fix small mistakes post-upload. It's a neat feature. You also get more detailed video statistics like average and total watch time, peak viewers, and the number of countries your viewers stem from. People who watch streams on Peertube can now set the latency value they prefer, instead of the fixed 30 seconds that was the rule before, and all live streams can now be preserved as a replay. Some of my videos do make it to Peertube on the TILvids instance. They're uploaded with my permissions by the host of the instance, but maybe I'll look into setting up my own or uploading to an already existing one. I like this Fediverse thingy. And on that note, I'm also on Mastodon and PixelFed. Both links are in the description of all videos. More good news for Linux users in Apple land. Apple will allow Linux virtual machines to run x86 applications in Macs that use the new Apple Silicon CPUs, starting with macOS Ventura, the recently announced new version of their OS. As of now, you simply cannot run x86 systems at all on these devices, including Windows. And while it could run OSs made for ARM CPUs, this limited the number of applications you could effectively use on your VM. Thankfully, this now won't be the case, at least in a few months. You still won't be able to run OSs made for Intel or AMD CPUs, but the OSs that you can run will be able to run x86 apps inside the VM, although it seems it requires a few commands and the creation of a shared directory between macOS and the virtual machine. Apparently, it might even enable non-Apple ARM CPUs to run Rosetta, their x86 on ARM emulator, although that is not something we'll see in the near future. Still, it's pretty cool that these devices will finally allow their users to run full Linux virtual machines. I'm actually kind of intrigued by their new CPUs, the new M1s and M2s. Maybe I'll get a new MacBook just to try Asahi Linux when it's completely fully operational with GPU support. Might be fun. System76, which you might know for making Pop OS, is also a manufacturer of laptops and desktops, running Linux out of the box. They also make the Launch keyboard, a fully customizable mechanical board that looks pretty powerful. But until now, a lot of their devices were US only. They didn't ship their desktops to Europe or the rest of the world, for example. This might start to change, as they're opening a distribution center in Europe in the coming month. To begin with, they'll only stock their Launch keyboard and a future light variant of that one. But there are definitely plans to expand that to other types of devices in the future, so we might finally be able to get our hands on these sweet Thelio desktops soon. They'll need to address more keyboard layouts for laptops if they want to distribute them in Europe, so it will take a bit more time. But I hope they do it, because their approach to integrated hardware and software is one I really like. Apparently, they are looking at the Netherlands for a potential location for that distribution center. So come on, System76, bring us those review units in Europe and maybe let me keep a Thelio. I know I have too many computers, but it would look very, very cool on my desktop. And speaking of System76 and Linux hardware, the HP Dev 1 is now available. I mentioned it in a previous news video, but I got to spend an hour or so with people from HP and System76 at a briefing, and I have a review unit, so I can tell you a bit more about it. While it is still US only for now, and they don't know yet if it will make it to other countries, it's a great device that could really make ThinkPad users rethink their future purchases. It has that weird nipple thing and a fantastic keyboard and a very, very powerful CPU, namely a Ryzen 7 Pro 5850U that goes up to 4.4 GHz and packs a pretty powerful GPU as well. System76 worked hand in hand with HP to provide support directly from the OS, with a dedicated team at HP to handle requests for this device. It also has a mouse configurator app for the HP Creator mouse, so you can configure its buttons inside of Linux graphically. And it also looks like they worked with AMD to make suspend and resume work better and improve battery life, and they claim up to 12 hours. Firmware will also be made available through LVFS. I only spent a few days with the device, but initial impressions are really good. The build quality is awesome, the keyboard is excellent, the battery life is really nice, and the hardware and software integration really makes it shine. So expect that review in the coming days and subscribe if you want to see it. If you were a fan of the Unity desktop environment, there might be a feature you're missing. Well, there might be plenty, like the HUD or the global menu, but at least one of these features might make its way back into the Ubuntu dock on regular GNOME. Unity lets you click on an app's icon to spread all of its windows in an expose view, something really more practical than small thumbnails or alt-tabbing. Well, someone is working on bringing that back to modern-day Ubuntu, which is pretty cool. It's only a merge request and hasn't been accepted yet, and it would also be an option that users have to opt into. But I would still like this to be included, as I feel like it's a great window management method that also keeps up with GNOME's overview design. And whether you liked or disliked Unity back in the day, I still took a look at it to see how it holds up in 2022. Check out the video in the card, like somewhere up top. And how could I end this video without including a new Wine release? Wine 7.10 is now out, with the macOS driver converted to the PE executable format, an update to the Mono engine, and more WoW64 support in various 32-bit libraries. 56 bugs were also marked as solved, including for Singularity, Panzer Core, Tribes Ascend, Steam, Hitman 2 from 2018, the Farm mod for Nier Automata, Star Citizen, EA Origin, Port Royal 4, and more. As always, you can expect all these improvements and bug fixes to land in a Proton release very soon. Or you could just use Wine on its own right now, or inside of Lutris, or the Heroic Games launcher, or from Bottles. Your choice. Just like it's my choice to tell you about today's sponsor, Tuxedo. Tuxedo is a company based in Germany, and they make laptops and desktops that run Linux out of the box. You can choose any distro you want at configuration, or you can install your own, knowing that basically all the hardware is gonna work really, really well out of the box. Every device has tons of configuration options for RAM, for storage, for CPU, for GPUs, and you can even have your own logo, laser etched. Look at that. That's so cool. Very, very pretty. That's the Stellaris 15, by the way, a laptop I'm going to review in the coming days, and that I'm definitely going to buy. So stay tuned for that. It's really, really good. But they don't just make this ultra-powerful thick boy. They also make some smaller ultrabooks, some high-end gaming desktops and workstations, and everything in the middle. So if you need a new device that runs Linux out of the box, or you want something that you can be sure runs well with Linux, check out the link in the description below and buy your new laptop or desktop from Tuxedo. So, thanks everyone for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can always drop a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, or drop a comment. And if you didn't like the video, do dislike it, but tell me why in the comments. Come on, be polite, be civilized. And if you don't know what to do with all the cash you have lying around, you can always click that super thanks button underneath the video, or click the PayPal link in the description, or join my Patreon subscribers or my YouTube members. Both of them get access to a weekly podcast and the right to vote on the next topics I'll cover. So thanks everyone for watching, and I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!